Hello there, and welcome to the House of D. I am, of course, D Square. Wanted to make this video for you today on Comic Book Day because the Dawn of X books have kind of been somewhat uninteresting per se. And so let's talk about the X-Men series, the flagship series of the Dawn of X. We are now on issue 6. Issue 1 through 5 has really been more of a hodgepodge. Hasn't been a cohesive story. It's really just been sprinkling in some information that I'm sure Jonathan Hickman will capitalize on later. You know, Hickman is known for his long game, his sprinkling of events and pieces of knowledge, and then boom, coming back to him at a later date. So far the main line, the X-Men title that is of course written by Jonathan Hickman himself, has again been that scattered kind of storyline, just dropping the tidbits. X-Men number 6 came out today, and it is quite interesting. The first thing I will point out is that this does seem to be at a point where we may actually be latching onto a story, particularly continuing on with the struggle between Orchis. You may remember them from the House of X Powers of 10 books. It was the big mother mold on the Forge, which was located in the orbit of the sun. The X-Men were sent to destroy that mother mold, and it cost them their lives. But then we learned about the resurrection protocol, which brought all the mutants back alive once again. Great issue and story, to be sure. Now, what we learn in this issue is that Magneto and Professor X sent Mystique along with that X-Men team, as you remember, but she did have a secondary mission, and that was to go into like this atrium area of the Forge with some vegetation and whatnot and plant a Krakoan gate. So very interesting, but very smart of Magneto and Xavier, because they were not naive enough to assume that Orchis would just stick its tail between its legs and give up. Certainly they knew they would resurrect the protocol or perhaps cook up something new, and that is precisely what we learn here. They send Mystique back through this gate, which is interesting in itself because they're like, hey, so yeah, either it went unnoticed and you'll be able to slip in no problem and give us some new intel, or they will have discovered it and you'll be walking into a trap. And so you may be asking yourself, why is Mystique doing this bidding, knowing that it's so dangerous, and also knowing that this is Mystique, so we're not exactly talking about a good guy? Well, that is because you may remember, if you did read some Dawn of X issues, that Mystique wants them to revive her wife, the Oracle Destiny. And they're kind of just pushing this off, pushing it off, and pushing it off, because they don't want any precogs, right? They don't want any precogs. They don't want anyone that can look into the future. They don't want anyone to know exactly what they're up to, and the fact that Moira McTaggart is still alive. Now, we have not touched back with Moira in quite some time, but make no mistake, she is still alive, just not in the quote-unquote public eye. So we've got a really crazy dynamic here. Mystique is getting upset. She insists that they bring her wife back. They insist that they'll do it, but she has to prove herself because she's stabbed them in the back so many times in the past. So she has to keep doing these missions in order to please Professor X and Xavier, and they have promised to resurrect Destiny, her wife, whose mutation is precognitive abilities. They will bring her back to life and they can be together once again. But again, as I just stated, they actually have no intention in doing that because they simply cannot let a precognitive mutant exist at this point. So crazy stuff here in issue 6. I would say this is the strongest X-Men issue so far. Now, don't get me wrong. If we come to X-Men number 7 and they're completely on some other subject, then I'm going to be a little bit disappointed. This is definitely a story that I would like to see them continue. Alright, well there we have it, guys. I hope you enjoyed my brief breakdown of the more notable events in X-Men number 6, which I do find to be the strongest issue of the flagship X-Men story arc and series so far. Okay, well hey, go ahead and follow me here on YouTube by subscribing to my channel if you haven't already. If you've enjoyed the video, I would certainly appreciate a like, and definitely if you have any questions or just want to say hi, I encourage you to do so in the comments. You can also follow me on Twitter at dsquare72. I would love to hear from you on there. We also have a podcast. That's right, the House of D podcast, available on Podbean as well as the Apple Podcast application. So, until next time, guys, peace and love, and I'll talk to you again soon.